As a kid, as a youngster, I thought of art like only, those fancy paintings in the museum, or those crazy ones where they splash paint all over the
Yeah,
place.
yeah, yeah.
But once well, what I guess, to word it better is like, what I was trying to say is like, kind of when you hear people discuss art and they're trying to figure out the artist's motivation and all that stuff, or what they feel it represents, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes, and I mean this respectfully, sometimes I think that's BS. I think that's kind of
Oh,
along the
I was literally just listening to some sort of designer's podcast or something like that, and he was saying that he created this illustration or design, and then a band decided to use it, but it was like 2 years apart, and the band like was like, oh yeah, like here we just used it, we got access to it. And then people started trying to decipher the artwork on remember the old CD covers, and they're like, oh, it means this and that, and the artist was like, no, it doesn't. I decided to draw whatever, like a rabbit or something like that. And so it's kind of like this like weird world where I feel that like I'm like, oh, I have to have something where it has meaning behind it, and then also sometimes I'm just like, fuck it, it's just like a fun piece of thing that I was doing, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, like those the trucks and skateboard wheels you did the other day. Oh, I'm sure it wasn't the other day, but I'm sure it like took forever. But that I saw those and I was like, what the hell? This should be in a museum. Like that blew my like that literally was amazing.
Oh, thank you, Matty. Thank you, bro. Yeah, I really appreciate that, man. You know, a few years ago, well, you know how it is sometimes when you come up with an idea, or you think you come up with an idea, but someone else has done it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I came with this idea, saying, hey man, in the lowrider world,
Yeah.
or custom paint world, they use skate decks as a canvas. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah, 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 yeah.
I said, you know what, man, I think it'd be cool to engrave a skate deck. Get one made out of metal. So
Wow.
I had one made, and it sat on the side. I never messed with it, and then I
Yeah.
seen someone else do one. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, now I gotta rock and roll. I gotta. And so it's like I can't only do the skate deck, and I gotta get some wheels. So
Oh, okay. All
yeah,
right.
so that's how that all came together.
So we'll jump into this stuff as the questions go along, but the wheels, they're metal. Like, where do you get those made? Do you make them yourself? Like, do you like lave those down and then make them, or?
To be honest with you, man, an internet buddy of mine from Germany made a set a few months ago, and I messaged him about it, like, "Hey, man, are you willing to sell some and whatnot?"
Yeah.
And he ended up blessing me with a set, bro.
No
And
way.
he blessed me with the set.
Legend.
Yeah,
Legend.
so yeah, I was like, "Hey,
I love
man,
when that stuff connects. That's awesome.
yeah, 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 man." And I don't like to ask people stuff or expect
Yeah.
stuff for free. You know what I mean?
I
But
feel the same way. I feel the same way.
it was
Um,
really cool.
yeah, that's crazy. I love that stuff. I love when it works out. All right, Lugo. Let's jump into it so I don't like soak up all your time.
No
Um,
worries.
and I'll do a little intro and then we'll jump into it.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Here we are with Lugo on Drawn to Your Story. He's going to jump in and answer 10 questions. And I'm super excited because his artwork is amazing. And I'm going to pop up a few pieces of his work right here, 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 here. Hopefully that works out. And then well, let's jump into it. How are you?
What's going on, Matty?
What's
Doing
happening?
good. How about yourself?
I'm pretty good. It's cold up here, so I'm like freezing my tits off. But other than that, it's pretty good. You're down in
And
California, right?
correct, correct. And you're in Seattle?
Yeah, Seattle. But like I've acclimated enough now. I've been here long enough, but I still feel like my inner Australian that it's like hates the cold. Like it's just like it's too cold. Even though I was up at the mountain yesterday and I was snowboarding with my son, I was having a killer time. I did a couple of jumps, like tiny jumps, where I thought I was killing it. I'm sure other
Yeah.
snowboarders were like, "What was that old man doing?" He like wiggled and thought he did something. But I did a
Yeah.
couple of jumps and I was like, "Oh, this is so great!" But as soon as I was getting pack for the car. I was like, why am I here? I'm freezing. Like my ears are burning. They were so cold. Oh, but I'm
Right.
always jealous of people that live in LA.
Oh, right on,
Yeah.
man. Well, to be honest, man, I live in Central California, so I live like where I live is mostly agriculture, so it's
Oh,
nothing
okay.
like postcards. Yeah, people
Ah,
when people envision California as beaches and all this stuff, and
yeah.
it's
I just
farmland.
imagine. I just imagine that you're going down to your local like a sandwich shop or coffee shop, and there's like four celebrities sitting in there, and you're like, "Oh, let me get past Brad Pitt. He's always here." Jenna Aniston. Oh God, let me just
Yeah,
get my coffee. The
correct.
paparazzi.
Right on, right on.
All right, let's ask the first question: M&M's
Okay,
or Skittles?
M&M's.
Ooh, is a reason? Like, do you? I feel like this saying, and I'm gonna guess, but are you peanut M and M's?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Fucking Americans, they're always peanut M and
yeah.
M's. That's
You- I, when I was a kid, though, it was Skittles. It was Skittles all the
oh,
way when I
you
was a kid.
matured like a fine wine into M and M's.
Yes, I eat them with my pinky out.
One M&M at a time. Oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
I'm actually like I go into like mini M&Ms, like because the ratio, like the coatings, a little different. But I've got like so many sweet teeth, you could just put M&Ms and Skittles there, and I'll just be like hump 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 hump. So yeah,
Right on, right on.
I should stop. I should stop eating that much stuff. Um, what do you do to pay the bills?
I engrave, man.
You
Yeah,
engrave.
just
So let's jump into that. When people hear engrave,
mhm,
um, what would be like when I think of engraving, I'm thinking wood, and I'm just like, oh, he's engraving like into like bedposts or something like that. When we talk
correct,
about your engraving, the stuff that I've seen is all in metal. What
correct,
how did you get into that? Like it doesn't seem like you're not doing a course at school that says let's just do engraving, right? Like is that like how do you step into that world?
correct. Well, it's kind of a short little story. What had happened, man? I had decided that I wanted to be an artist. I was like 30 years old. Previously, I was a cook for a long time. I was a
Oh
chef.
yeah. Oh cool.
Got burnt. Yeah, I got burnt out on that.
Yep.
So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try something else. So I started doing like paintings and whatnot. And one day I was at this swap meet trying to sell my artwork, and this
Yep.
artist came up to me, or this gentleman came up to my booth, and he was, looking, pointing out my artwork and making comments that only another artist would say, right? Like,
Yeah.
uh, use art terminologies.
Yep.
So I asked, "Hey, man, are you an artist?" And he goes, "Yeah, man, I'm an engraver. I engrave lowriders." He started naming off his resume. He's like, "I'll be out here tomorrow. My stuff. Stop by and check it out." So when the next day I went to go, I didn't say it was on a, for proper context, this swap meet was on a Saturday and Sunday. So I met him on a Saturday, and
Yep.
then the next day on a Sunday, I went out to see what he did.
Yep.
And when I saw his work, I saw like these lowrider wheels all engraved
Oh
and belt
wow.
buckles, and I was like, "That's it, man."
You found
I
it.
knew right then and there. Yeah, yeah, like old like those old cartoons or movies where the guy sees a girl across the field and they start running in slow motion. E- Exactly the same, bro. I said that's what
That's
I want to
it.
do.
Oh wow.
Yep.
So when you get to that, do you go to this guy, hey, how do I learn this? Or do you just go and hit the Google like YouTube University and just go ba 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 and get into it? Like how's that leap? Because that feels like
Okay.
a
Well,
big skill to learn.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, okay. Well, I saw him do a little live demonstration, right?
Yep.
But he wasn't really offering any advice,
Mm.
and I was kind of proud, too proud to ask. I didn't want to annoy him and be, you know
Yeah,
what I
I
mean?
feel
Like,
you
hey,
on that.
wait, bro.
Yeah.
So I had to do a lot of research, Google University, and
Yep.
let me share with any aspiring engravers out there who may see
Yeah.
this, or even art. At that time, it's around 2007, 2008.
Oh wow,
There
you've
was
been doing
very
it a while.
Yeah, yeah. There
Oh,
was very
cool.
little. There was very little information,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
so I didn't know what kind of tools to use, and
Yeah.
so much trial and error, Matty. So much
Oh,
trial and error.
so once you started finding the tools, are the tools expensive? Are they like because I did a little bit of like lino carving and stuff like that in my time, and I
Okay,
feel like lino carving's like hard work. Like you're like, "Grr,
oh,
grr," like, but I feel like doing on metal. Like, is it like a machine that does a little vibration? Like, how does it, or is it just super sharp metal that's carving out of like a softer metal?
well, basically, it's like the tools I use are pneumatic. They're air assisted, so
Oh, okay,
it's basically it's a handpiece. The inside the handpiece, it has a little piston that goes back and forth,
okay, yep,
and then it acts as a hammer and to your graver, and that
yeah.
pushes through the chisels through the metal.
How long did it get your hand? Because I imagine this is the same for tattoo artists. I just got myself a little like one of those tattoo guns that just does the ballpoint pen.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Those are cool,
yeah.
man.
And so I got that just to play around with to try something new. And I was like, oh god, like it stay with me. I feel like Jim Carrey doing like some sort of like skit. But like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
imagine like you like your stuff is so precise, your hand had to like develop the muscles to stay with it, right?
Correct. Yeah, yeah. You eventually build up, your muscle memory, and but it's a trip though, because in traditional engraving, or hand engraving, for the most part, you have your uh you have your piece on
Yeah.
the vice, and your hand stays still, so it's kind of like a record player, right?
Oh, so it's moving, not your hand.
For the most part.
Yeah, okay.
And and, and for the large scale stuff, we have to break those rules, and we have to
Oh, yeah,
move
okay.
around and
Yeah,
whatnot. So there's a lot of imperfections,
yeah. But
but
that's I
try
feel
to
like
hide them.
in the stage of AI, the imperfections are gonna be what makes us important. You know what I mean?
Oh wow, I never thought of it that way. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great point.
So like when we see something, you could put someone could create a perfect mold, right? And they could do that in CAD. They could get AI to create something or whatever, and then they could do a mold and they could replicate that over and over again. But then if they see a Lugo piece and they're like, "Oh, look at that little carve," and like this one sticks out just a little bit more than that one, but it gives this sort of energy about. You get what I mean? Like there's that little bit different of energy when it's handmade. That sort of like has that feel of I don't know how to put it where you've got to see something that will never be replicated. Do you get what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, Matty.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you started this back in 2007. Um, like when was it when you first made your first piece, and then when did you start doing that full time?
I wanna say, man. I started doing it full time around 2000. Well, okay, it was. I want for. I have to say it was a hobby
Yeah,
for so many years.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
But I will say, around 2015, it really started to you know gain some momentum,
yeah. Okay.
and then when COVID hit, it went bananas.
Oh
It went crazy.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow. Do you think
yeah.
what made it like sorry, let me backtrack on that. So COVID hits, it goes bananas. Is that people interested in buying your work or is that people interested in learning to do it and you're teaching them? Or
Uh,
both?
a little bit of both. A little
Okay,
bit of
wow.
both, but mainly the clientele. So uh, what I do is a luxury, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's no
Yeah.
one needs engraving in their life. It's a luxury.
No one needs a silly cartoon that I draw either. I feel your pain.
Yeah. But it's cool, and for those who appreciate it and support it financially, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So I think what had happened was, uh, the cars and motorcycles that I worked on, there was no shows happening, so people
Mm.
were just, what I mean, and I want to guess that the the people who can afford that, they either have businesses or side hustles, or You know what I mean? To where they can stay afloat
Yeah, yeah.
during, so
What is your main product that you work on? I'll ask that question. I've got another one after that. Sorry.
my bread and butter is doing the custom work on lowriders and
Okay,
motorcycles.
so and that's mainly on the rims.
I'm pretty much any part that can be engraved. So on your cars, it's usually going to be like your door handles, things of that
Oh,
nature,
wow.
And on the motorcycles, the the engine cover, the engine parts, or the
Oh,
handlebars.
yeah.
Yeah,
God.
there's a huge market for it. It's amazing. Like when I first started, there was maybe that I know of maybe a dozen engravers.
Yep.
Now it's you know over, over 100. It's worldwide now. They have lowrider engravers in Brazil, Japan,
Oh. Were you getting
Australia.
many international orders?
Not that much. I
Okay.
do on occasion. On
Yeah.
occasion, I do.
The shipping would kill
But
people on that, right? Like that, like that's so expensive to ship, especially something like heavy or fragile, like that has to take up more space.
when I started, it was a big market. I missed it though. I missed that wave of people, like from Japan,
Mm.
spending big dollars on the American engraving. But I'm sure some of them still do. But they also have their own engravers now.
Do you ever? So I've got a couple of friends that are tattoo artists in Australia, and they will get asked to travel to different parts of the world.
Oh
Do people
wow!
ever ask you to take your skills and be like, "Hey, can you come engrave this bike over here? Because I want a Lugo custom."
Not yet, bro. I'm not.
Ah,
I'm not that.
fingers
I haven't
crossed.
made it to that part yet. Yeah, yeah,
Anyone out there right
yeah,
now?
man.
Let's get Lugo over there engraving in Japan.
Someplace warm though.
Yeah, don't bring him up to
Yeah,
Seattle in winter. He's like, nah, you're good.
yeah.
Keep that motorbike still plain and simple.
Correct, correct.
um, so let's say I know it's hard to gauge on because of how intricate work is and how big a piece is, but let's say um, a size of something that people might know. Let's say on a motorbike, the petrol canister, right?
Okay.
And I'm sure that gets engraved. Like, do you do any of those engravings?
It can. I have not
Oh,
yet
okay.
done so. I have not yet. There are some engravers out of the UK, uh, Spain, Malaysia, who even here in the US that done some really cool work on tanks. I just haven't really had the
Oh,
opportunity
okay.
to really rock
All
and
right.
roll.
So let's go a basic car rim, just one tire. It's got five spokes in there, medium thickness. I'm not a car guy, so I would not know any um, of this stuff. How long would it take you on an average carve to be able to do that?
On average, man, I would say around at least 40 hours per wheel. You know,
Whoa! Which makes sense.
I
I understand it because, like, in my drawings, I'm like, oh, that might be 6 to 10 hours for that drawing, and then doing that stuff. Whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah, and then you have the different angles and whatnot, like kind of like a tattooer. Sometimes they have to bend over and
Yeah,
whatnot to get in weird places.
yeah.
So yeah, man, it can get a little interesting.
Do
Trying to get in.
so. Let's say you got the flat part, the front facade of the top of the rim.
Yep.
Would you be like, okay, for the flat facade, I have no idea. So I'm anyone listening. This is no, I have no idea about money. But let's say that that's $5,000 just to do the facade of the rim, and then do you go? Well, if you want the inside of the each rim, now that's another $2,500 to do that because I have to get on the inside. Is that how you sort of price it?
Correct. I'll be honest with you, Matty. And I'm a little embarrassed to admit it. Oftentimes, I don't always go in depth.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? On the estimates,
yeah,
because you get hit up so many times, you
yeah.
don't know who's serious and who's not.
I
So,
feel you so much on that, especially because people be like, "Oh, how much for this drawing?" And I'm like, "Well, what size drawing do you want? What detail do you want? When do you want it?" Like, I'm like, there's so many factors go into that. Yeah,
Correct.
I feel you on
Correct.
that. I get hit up with stuff like that as well, and I'm like, "Oh, if you want a straight line down a white bit of paper, here you go. That's $5. Let's get it moving." You know what I mean? But then how thick do you
Yeah,
want that
yeah, yeah.
line? Do you want that line, like, a little wobbly? Do you want it with a paintbrush? There's so many variables to just simple decisions.
Correct, correct. And yeah, and as you know, Matty, like if you ever have a commission from someone who's familiar with drawing,
Yeah.
then that helps you out a lot more. Like, hey, I want it, I want it sketch, I want it in charcoal,
Yep,
I
yep.
want this, cartoonish, I want it a life, still life or
Yeah,
realism.
yeah.
That helps you out. You know what I mean?
I don't
It takes away
Do
the
you
paper.
find this because you work in, with metal, are people like, well, they assume that you can do everything in metal. So I feel like a lot of people
Yeah,
go like, "Oh, you're an illustrator. Well, I want a realistic version of my dog." And I'm like, "That's not my style. You've seen all the cartoony dickhead shit that I do on my website. Why would you come and ask for a realistic one?" Do people hit you up
yeah.
with like random like, "Hey, can you build me a custom engine?" And you're like, "No, I carve stuff." Like that sort of thing?
It's from time to time, and it's I mean, because not everybody's educated on engraving,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
not everybody knows. And yeah, I'll get requests, a lot of requests for stuff that I don't do.
Yep.
And man, weird. Like as you know, in art, like okay, you cartooning is your
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? I got so you may be able to do. I believe you can do a portrait, but it might not be your thing. There's people who specialize
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
different areas.
I feel like if I put
It's
my
the same with
time into it, I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, I could do that." And I'm sure if you were like, "Oh, yeah, sure, if I wanted to put time into that, I could do that job, but I don't wanna put time into it. This is what I love to do."
correct,
Yeah.
correct, correct. So it's the same thing, in engraving you have jewelry, you
Mm.
have Western like belt buckles and
Oh,
things of that
yeah.
nature,
I saw
bits and stuff for the horses.
Oh, really? That's crazy. I would never
Oh
think
yeah,
of that.
there's some specialize in guns and
Oh,
knives,
yeah.
and there,
I could s
there's a bunch of different areas.
I saw that little car that you did. You had, like, a metal car, and then, like, you carved all that
Yeah.
in that. That was,
Uh-huh.
that really I think that might have been the first thing I saw of yours. And I was like,
Oh, right on,
"Whoa,
man.
god, that is so good." Like, it was this little car, I was
Thank
like,
you. Right on.
someone just put that in a wall and leave nothing else around it because it just is so good. Um, my question is because the carving is like there's floral's not the right word, but is there a certain what's the name of the style of carving that you do?
Oh, well, the design is commonly known as scroll work.
Scroll work.
That
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So it's similar. It's based off of a plant, off of a vine.
Yep, yep,
Kind of based off of.
yep.
And some people have their own, you know, uh, thoughts and philosophies on it,
Yeah.
but generally known as scroll
Oh,
work,
yeah,
huh?
cool. Awesome. Yeah, that's the stuff like not being in that world, I would not know that sort of like style. Like I see that stuff in some tattoos sometimes, like
Yeah,
but
yeah.
not like I'm not a tattoo artist, so I've got like a couple of tattoos, but I'm not like in depth in that world. You know how there's people that are like know every little piece of it. So
I
yeah.
understand.
Um we have you is there anything else you would wanna say on your, carving and stuff that people may not know that you think that they should know? Or
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's interesting to me, but not interesting
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
the
Oh,
public.
yeah,
You know what I
it's
mean?
like
So
me saying to, like, "Oh, I love using a mechanical pencil now," and people are like, "Who cares? Use a fucking pencil." And I'm like and when I'm doing, like, sketch I'm in the middle of working on a project for, a publisher in Canada. And whenever I do my sketches for it, I only use like a crappy Bic ballpoint pen. I don't know why, but I'm like, that's all I use.
yeah,
I was just using
yeah,
pencil
yeah.
a second ago, but before we got on here, and I was like, "Oh, this feels weird. I don't want to use this." It felt like I was out of my process, so I just used that, and then I like that's my starting point for the project. But yeah, I feel like
Oh, wow,
yeah,
wow.
How do you
That's interesting.
how do you come up with your designs? Are you freehanding
Uh,
these?
yeah, for the most part, like for the scroll work is pretty much all freehand. The artwork I have to draw it out first
Yep.
and then transfer it.
Yep. Yep.
You know, but yeah, it's the designs. It always comes pretty natural, pretty easy.
Yep.
My skills haven't caught up to where my imagination is yet,
I
so I'm still working on
I
that.
that is crazy that you just said that. Last night I was laying in bed and I said I was like I don't know if you do this, but I'm like all these different ideas are running through your head, thoughts and like phrases and stuff. And I honestly believe that if you're an artist and your ideas aren't bigger than your skill set, you will never grow. And so to me, I'm like, oh man, that's the magic power of being a growing artist is that your ideas are bigger than what you do. So you've got to grow your skill set, but it's always going to be
Yeah,
going like this, like up and up and up.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I feel that. Oh
Uh,
my gosh, like that made my day. Like just then, you saying that, that was great.
right on, Matty. Yeah, well, I'm glad I'm not alone. And there's out there. We're always pursuing.
Yeah.
So real
Yeah.
quick, I'm gonna you know, it's kind of a trip sometimes when where with the level we're at, maybe someone else may see it as like mind blowing, right? And we're thinking of something else as mind
Yeah.
blowing. But that being said, I try to be respectful of the ones who are still
Oh,
starting out
yes, of course.
because to me that reminds me of like you know the flawless uh female model that walks in the room and she's, oh, I'm so ugly.
Oh, yeah,
You know what I
yeah, yeah,
mean?
yeah. I
That the fake humble.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
So
I try to be
yeah,
respectful.
so I get a lot of emails about like children's books and oh, how do I illustrate and stuff like that. I will
Oh yeah,
always and it might get different as time goes on and gets busier, but I will always respond to the emails and be like, "Hey man, this is what I do. This is the practices I do." Or if they're like, "I want to be in the children's book world," and I'm like, "Well, this has been mine." Like, and I'll have like full conversations with him. I even have a young mate that hits me up regularly about his illustration, and nearly any time I'll be like, "Hey, here's a little bit of feedback. Here's this or that. This part's really amazing. This part, try working on this part here." Or like, and even sometimes it's just like, "That's awesome that you did that." Like, so this young guy, applied to be um, uh, an artist for the Nickelodeon program, and he didn't get into it. And I was like, "But you applied for it. Like, you gave yourself that opportunity. That's bigger than not applying. That's bigger than like not giving yourself a shot. So now you know how you can grow and you can get there. Like, it's available to you now."
wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That yeah, wow. That's a big
Yeah.
step. As a kid trying to figure out, you know, well, putting art on the back burner
Yeah.
because I didn't know any way to make a living doing it.
Yeah.
You know, just the fact that person sought out, researched how to apply to
Yeah.
Nickelodeon is huge,
Yeah.
man. It's easy to get discouraged, like I don't even know where to
Yeah.
start. So that's
Yeah.
awesome, person. Yeah,
I
that's
think that
cool.
like when I was a kid, I don't know if this I because I've always drawn shitty drawings, but I've always drawn. And so
Right.
I had so many people when I'm like, "Oh, you're good at drawing, but you're never going to be able to make money doing that." And so in my head, I
Yeah.
was like, "Well, I only do this for fun. I only do it because I enjoy it. There's no way I could pursue that." Now, I that set me up the drawing set me up to be creative, so I ended up becoming a web designer, worked for a small design firm that taught me a ton of different skills, and then I worked for Nintendo as a web designer for here, which growing up in a small podunk town, I would have been like, there if you told me that when I was 15, I would have been like, "You're no fucking way. Like, I'm never gonna get there."
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
But when I was at Nintendo, I'd always say I've got someone else's dream job because my heart is with illustration. My heart is with like being this like freer creative. And that was really like boxed in and like 24 people telling you, oh, that letter A should be too bigger, that should be too small. Like just everyone, that should not the right color blue, or I want this blue, or whatever it is, right? You got too many people, too many cooks in the kitchen. And I sort of wish if I could go back in time, I'd be like, hey, young Matt, go and pursue your passion. Don't let these other people tell you not. If it doesn't work out, that's fine, but you gave it a crack. Start earlier trying to have a crack. That's what I would have said. I don't know if that's if I started on a tangent and I went whoop around on that, but yeah,
Oh no, that's music to my ears, man. You're not the only
yeah,
one. There's many.
yeah,
There's many of us out there who, you know, if if we had known that this was possible at a younger age, who could only imagine?
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
But but the cool thing though, one of the cool things is that the next generation, and now with technology and social media and these people are able to become aware of these different types of things that they can do. You know
yeah.
what I mean? And
I agree.
yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. All right, let's jump on to the next question. You ready? All
Okay.
right.
Yep.
Which movie do you think you've seen the most?
Oof. I probably have to say Scarface,
Oh,
man.
really?
Yeah.
It's such a heavy movie.
Yeah.
Are you like, oh, let me have some breakfast and put on some Scarface?
Man, especially as a young impressionable
Oh,
kid,
yeah.
that movie was in constant rotation. One of my cousins and myself, we watched that movie so many times together. We know all the
Oh,
words.
wow. That's crazy. I didn't watch
Yeah,
that
yeah.
until I was older. Like, it's not like I wasn't allowed. I
Oh,
just
okay.
think that it wasn't as popular where I was. And then it all of a sudden came back to being, it might have been like hip hop and like that sort of brought it back in. And I was like, wow, maybe I should watch that. And I was like, whoa, this is heavy.
It's
Yeah.
heavy. Yeah, I wouldn't have let myself watch it now. Like I was, hey, turn that off. That's too mature for
Yeah,
you. You
yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? But as a
I
kid,
did the same thing for my kids. I was like watching like these Van Damme movies and all this, like where they're like what was it, Roadhouse, where he rips someone's throat out. Yeah, and I'm like,
yeah,
I was watching
yeah,
that when I was like 11 and stuff like that, and I'm like, my
yeah, yeah,
kids, my
yeah,
kid's 12, and I'm like, no way am I letting you whip someone and rip their throat out.
yeah. Yeah, man. Patrick Swayze was
Yeah, yeah,
cool, man. I
that was
remember
sick. There's a
that.
new one coming out with like Jake Gyllenhaal.
What,
Yeah,
Roadhouse? They're
yeah,
redoing it?
but everything's being
Oh
redone, right?
wow.
Like,
I,
yeah,
yeah, it
yeah,
makes sense now. But yeah,
yeah.
wow.
It'll be interesting to
Okay.
see what that's like. Sometimes they're hits and sometimes they're flops, but it's fun.
What was your favorite? What was your movie you seen the
Oh,
most?
mine's such a fucking dud. Like it's not a dud. Like it's just not what you're gonna think. I'm not. It's not cool. It's Grown Ups by Adam Sandler.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a
it's
good one.
fun. It's fun.
Yeah,
But the reason I've
yeah.
watched the most, and I don't know if you do this when you're doing your artwork, but I put on I usually it's either a podcast. I don't listen to music while I'm working because it brings me up, but also brings me down. Like I can't maintain a consistent just path. So I put on a
Okay.
movie that I've seen, and then I will watch that like again and again, or like I've listened to the Harry Potter books or something like that because I've seen the movies, I know the characters, and it takes a piece of my brain and goes, "You just sit over there and just twiddle your thumbs," and then my brain's like, "Okay, now you can get to work over here." So,
Oh
but if you're
yeah.
going to ask like what movie that I would want to watch the most, that would totally depend on my mood. Like Mallrats. But do you remember that movie? That
Yeah,
movie was sick, right? Like, I loved
yeah,
watching that
yeah,
movie. Like, I could watch that movie pretty regularly, like Chasing Amy or Kevin Smith back in the earlier days. That was pretty sick. But action movies,
yeah.
like when there's like a like Denzel Washington in what was the recent ones he was in? I know, like the old dude that's like an ex-assassin type dude. Anyway,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So I can watch that sort of stuff over and over. Like I love that sort of like justice vengeance sort of thing. I'm sure it says something about my
Yeah.
soul or something like that, but
Hey. Yep, yep, right on, man. Yep.
all right, next question. Outside of work, what do you wish you did more of?
Oh man, probably maybe either honestly, man, it would be to relax, like
Oh,
relax without thinking about like turn off work, turn off and you know what I mean, and
you were
just
preaching to the choir.
kind of enjoy the
Yeah.
moment.
So I interviewed someone, a friend of mine, but 2 or 3 interviews ago, like his name's Andrew Thibodeau, or however you say his last name. He's such a legend, such a fun guy. And he goes, "Oh, when I go to bed, I'm like an iPad turning off. Beep. And I just power down." And I was literally
Nice.
stunned. I was like, I didn't think anyone did that. Because I go to bed and my brain's going, and then I literally
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
tell my brain and be
yeah,
like, just calm down. We need to go to sleep so we can get up.
yeah.
Because I'm like, it starts rattling off ideas. It starts like, oh, you didn't do this, or you got to do that, or let's respond to that email. And I'm like, whoa, 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 we can't do any of that right now. Like, are you in that same sort of boat?
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of funny. My wife, bro, she's just like the person
Oh,
you
yeah.
described. Like she could drink 5 shots of espresso and
Oh, no way. Oh,
pass out.
God. I don't even
Yeah,
drink,
yeah.
I
If I
don't
even
drink coffee either.
yeah, I stopped drinking caffeine, but if I even smell it, I'm up for 3 days. You know what I mean? So yeah, bro.
I
Yeah.
haven't, like, in my whole life, I've probably had this much coffee, like all of it. I mean, so I drink tea, but if I
Oh
had
yeah, yeah.
a, I can't imagine what it would be like if I had a coffee. I would be like one of those cartoons where you see them like just rattling and all their like body parts are falling off or something like that. Just like, ah! But yeah.
Well, hey, Matty, on the tea subject, I will say this, man. I did get surprised a few years ago. I had a chai tea in the
Yep.
evening, and man, that
Oh,
kept me up
I
all
have to
night,
do
man.
decaf as well now. Like this is just getting old. Like I feel like yeah.
Yeah, I drink
Yeah.
decaf coffee. That's like the flavor.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have to do decaf tea because if I drink it too late at night, then I'm like, oh, I'm really awake and like I'm on my phone in the middle of the night trying to do something, and usually ends up me just death scrolling for hours. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
God, caffeine, the killer of us all. I'm just kidding.
Yes, sir.
All right. When you visit the zoo, what animal are you most excited to see?
Oh man, that's a good one. Well, man, I'm an animal lover,
You and me
so
both.
I want. Yeah, man, I guess the first one. Well, I guess the first one that I see. You know what I
Well,
mean?
is it
Close to where I live, the first thing we see is
the
the wolves.
wolves? But is that the one like you're most
Mhm.
like when you go in there and be like, oh, like so to me, going and seeing the reptiles, like I love seeing all the different
Yeah,
reptiles, or like
you're
the
right.
orangutans.
Yeah,
When I like seeing stuff when I'm like just blown away that that thing is alive. Like seeing a Komodo dragon, you're like, that literally is a dragon. Like you put some wings on that, and that thing's fucking flying
correct.
away. You know what I mean? Like it's huge.
You're right. You're right. That's like the second or third thing. The second or third thing we see when we go to the it's the wolves, and then like a tortoise and
Oh
some
yeah,
birds, and then they have the reptile.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. I forgot about how cool that is. As a kid, the pet shop
Oh, God.
was like my favorite place to
Yeah,
go.
do you know what? So in Australia, pet shops were pretty average. You'd have fish and you'd have cats and dogs when I was growing up. Pretty basic, right? Don't get me wrong, loved it. But when I moved to here, I was like, holy shit, you guys fucking have everything. You can get in there and you can be like, I want to see a lizard. I want to see a snake. I want to see a tarantula. I want to see a cat. I want to see a bunny. I want fish. I was like, this is a mini zoo, people. I used to take my kids there and be like, "Let's go to the zoo," and then they'd be like, "Yeah," and I'd be like, "To the mini zoo," and they'd be like, "Great, we're going to the pet store." But I loved it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we used to. My wife and I, we used to live in Washington in Mount Vernon.
Oh
So
wow!
it's about an hour and a half
Yeah,
north
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah,
Seattle.
yeah,
So we were there back in 2001. We only stayed like
yeah,
eight
yeah.
nine months,
Fair
but while
enough.
we
I
were
could see
there,
why.
I I used to frequent PetSmart because I'd never been
Oh
to a
yeah.
PetSmart before. So I was like, and I bought a ball
Oh
python,
wow.
and and
Do
I
you
still have
really?
it. So yeah, we had it for like
That's
22 years.
crazy. That's awesome. I always wanted a pet snake when I was a kid. I would ask it, you know how like some kids will ask for a pony or a dog? I would always be like, I want a
Uh-huh.
pet snake. I want a pet. And in Australia at that time, you couldn't have one. Even like you couldn't even get a license for them. They're like very strict on it. Now you can. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
wow.
Now you can. But uh so I would always ask for one, and because I used to like catch lizards, I used to catch snakes when I was a kid, but I'd always catch like venomous snakes. And my mum's like, "You're not keeping a
Whoa.
venomous snake," and I'd be like, "Why can't I keep a venom?" And I'm like, now I look back as an adult, I'm like, "Of course you can't keep a bloody venomous snake." Like I would be like someone that leaves it open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, but
Yeah. Oh, that's
now I
crazy.
go into the pet store. I'm like, my wife hates snakes, and she's like, "You can have many animals, but you cannot have a snake." So snakes are off the table for me because I love my wife a lot. But she did get me when we first
Yeah.
moved here, um, a pet tortoise. And in Australia, they
Oh
don't have any
wow.
tortoises. They have turtles, and I've had turtles and like caught them and released them and all that sort of stuff. But I had a
Yeah.
tortoise for like 10 years, and I was like, this it was just so fun. Its name was Chinchilla because I'd never seen a chinchilla before. So, so I had
Yeah.
this, and it would
Right.
like cut, like
Oh.
it would hear its name and it would come to its name. It was, but it always just wanted to get out.
Oh.
Like if I had an outdoor pen for it, and it was like planning its escape all the time. It escaped 3 times, like, and yeah, it would
Oh.
just get out like somehow, and then like would find it the yard over.
Wow.
Or one time we lived in an apartment, it got out and I was devastated because I like to look after my animals. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've let this animal out. Like it's dangerous. Like something could hurt it. And it was walking. My wife had to go to work, and she calls me on the phone. I found it. I found it. The light was shimmering off this moving thing. It was already down in the car park all the way to the end. And my wife was like,
Oh.
"Those where they say tortoises are slow." I'm like, "No, like they're slower than a hare, like in the book. But those motherfuckers are deceiving. Like they're getting out of here. Like they're like a piece. I'm out."
Yeah. They, they, they probably just play the role so you can let your
Exactly.
guard down.
I feel like that's a
They're probably master
yeah,
criminals. Yeah.
exactly. That shell's just hiding all sorts of like money, just robbing me. I see. Yeah, I get it.
Right.
All right. What trait of yours are you most proud of? Trait,
What
yeah.
trade? Like
Personality trait or like something that you do that you're proud
oh
of
trade.
yourself
Oh,
of.
you know what, man? I, I guess I that's a good question. I never thought of that, man. Because now I'm trying to think of an answer that doesn't sound like
No, but no,
arrogant or
I don't
proud or
think
anything.
that. So that's not the point of the question. So the point of the question is, you can say something that you're proud of because I think that's a strong strength. Honestly, you're not an arrogant dude. Like you're not here going like, I'm the best fucking engraver. No one can get up in my business. I'm the like, you know what I mean? You're not coming across that way.
Yeah.
You like just say what you feel is your best trait. That's not being arrogant. That's just saying the truth.
Uh, I guess it would be
Oh
empathy.
wow, yeah.
I guess would
So
be that.
empathy for
You know,
others or for yourself or
yeah, yeah. For others, I it's just programmed in my mind to. I try to put myself in
yeah.
other people's shoes. So when I'm dealing with them, however I mean, I don't always do the best job at it,
Yeah.
but I make an effort to before I before I say something. You know, I always kind of had a. It was a mix of I don't want to say envy of people who they just speak their mind regardless of who's around, but but sometimes I think people use saying their truth as an excuse to be rude or
I
disrespectful.
yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, oh, that's just how
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
just the truth, or that's
I feel you on
like,
that. Yep.
you know what I mean? Yeah, and the way I grew up was like, if you disrespect somebody, you might have to do karate. You know what I'm saying? You know, so I'm
Not get
real
into a
big on
fight.
that.
You're like, it has to be karate though, right?
You got to do the crouching tiger, hidden dragon, or that
Yeah,
kind of
how
stuff.
it is. I
Yeah,
was always
yeah,
terrible
yeah,
at karate when
yeah.
I did it when I was a kid. It's
Hey, what about the kung fu movies? You ever see the kung fu
oh
movies when you were
yeah.
a kid, and then go
Oh,
out and try to practice
so
it with your
I
friends?
used to watch Jean-Claude Van Damme movies all the time. I learned how to do the splits on 2 chairs because he
Oh,
did. Yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah.
Wow,
I thought I was
yo,
like when I look
wow,
back, I'm like, this looks so corny because I'd show my friends would come over and I'd be like, look at me, I'm Jean Claude Van Damme, sitting between 2 chairs, like legs split, and I'd be like,
yeah,
hey, and they'd be like,
yeah,
okay, okay.
yeah, yeah. Was the inspirational music in the background?
I
Yeah, I
get my
can see
stereo
that.
box and I put on, and I do the splits.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
uh,
Right
uh,
on, man.
that I think empathy is something that everybody should have more of. You know what I mean? Like maybe not you since you have it so well, but there's this whole world could do with a little bit more empathy towards looking at other people. So I think that's a great trait to have.
Well, not to get too preachy, but I honestly feel, man, if we treated each other with a little bit more love and respect, either one
Yeah.
or both, yeah, there would be a lot
Oh
less
my gosh,
problems.
let's
You know
air
what I mean?
high five on that. Fuck yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
you
fully down
know,
for that. Um, what is your comfort food?
ooh, that changes. That changes from time to time. For a while there, I was on a peanut butter and jelly sandwich
Yeah.
binge there for a while. Yeah, yeah, and sometimes
Oh
ice cream.
yeah. Oh god, ice cream's so good. Like yeah, I have a few friends that don't like ice cream, and I'm like, and they're really good people, but there's a part of me that goes, "Do I trust you a little less because you don't like ice cream?" It's
There's something
a
wrong.
little bit
There's
wrong,
something wrong with
right?
them.
It's so good, and then I feel guilty
Yeah,
because I'm like, "There's these cows that are just getting milked," but I'm like eating this ice cream from the
yeah, yeah,
from the tub, going, "This is so great."
yeah. That is
What's your
messed up. You're
favorite
right.
flavor?
Yeah. Ah, man. That varies too. It's usually comes back to strawberry.
Okay, so here's my
So if I dabble with something else to go back.
so when I was a kid, I was always like chocolate, bubble gum, like crazy flavors. As I've matured,
Okay.
as you have from Skittles to M and M's, I've gone to vanilla. So vanilla, I just love vanilla. But if
Oh,
it's
okay.
cheaper ice cream that has strawberry, so like you know when you get those like Neapolitan ice cream, and it's like
Yep.
you know that it's
Yep.
been
Yep.
made in a factory and it may not even be real, but the one in the middle, which is strawberry, is like the best flavor. Like it's just like it's cheap. It's like so sugary, and you're like, this is the best one. It's carved out like you've parted the seas in ice cream.
Yeah.
Is that the type of
It has the
yeah,
best
yeah,
chemicals.
yeah. Are you going for a more natural strawberry with like chunks of strawberry in it, or are you going for the it maybe be created in some sort of chemical warfare act of strawberry?
It's yeah. When I get a chance, if it's more quality, but
Yeah.
I'm easy, bro. Even when I was a chef, like all these dishes and whatnot, and I'm good. I used to be good with just give me some bacon
Oh,
wrap shrimp or
just
something
give
like
me
that.
some
I'm
bacon wrap
easy.
shrimp. That's fancy. You are living the best life.
That's it. Well, well, let me rephrase that, man. Something a little bit more. Just give me some
Uh,
tacos,
uh,
bro. You know what I'm saying?
Tacos. Do you
You know what
know
I
what?
mean?
This is funny. I worked in a Mexican restaurant when I was in Australia, which which
Oh,
I
okay,
had not
okay.
met a Mexican. I had no
Okay.
idea. Like I'd obviously um seen movies and stuff like that that had like Mexican stuff in it, but I had no idea. So we're there. We had what was it? Chili mussel Tuesdays. I have no idea if Mexicans eat chili mussels, but in Australia, mussels are
Oh,
popular there. Yeah. People eat
okay.
them
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
but we're in a Mexican restaurant. I come and move over here, and I'm like, "Oh, what's it like?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is what Mexican food's meant to taste like. This is amazing!" Like I was just like feeling my mouth.
Yeah.
I loved it so much. I still do, but I hear that Seattle Mexican food is not
Mm.
the like it's meant to be the closer you get down to the border, the better the Mexican food gets. So I don't know. Maybe I'm have a watered down version up here as well.
No, hey, you know what, Matty? That's I would say, man, that's up for debate. And almost well, I can't speak in any other cuisine, but I'll say this: even you would think in California, it has to be great, but it's not. It
Yeah,
all
yeah.
depends. You know what I mean? And then plus though, I have to admit, like my whole family cooks good. You know what I mean?
Mm,
So
the homemade
it's
stuff.
kind of like, yeah. So it's kind of like it's a kind of hard
How
of
spicy do you go?
that part. Now I'm more
Oh,
mild nowadays. There was a time when it was like bring on the
yeah,
spiciest stuff you got, but now my I
yeah,
mellow it
yeah.
out big time. Like a little bit of spice, but if it's too
Uh,
hot, then it's
uh,
yeah,
I
I
was
can't
such
deal with it.
a baby about spice growing up that if it even burnt me a little bit, I'd be like, "Ah, no." Now I'm like, I do like Mike's honey hot sauce, and I'm like, that's a good level where it's just enough little kick, but then it's also like I'm
Yeah.
feeling the flavors and other stuff like that. So I feel like you've gone
What about
down, and I've just caught up with you.
what about horseradish?
I
You eat
haven't
horseradish
dabbled in that much.
or
No,
wasabi?
wasabi I tried once, but it was when I was like really not into spice. And I was
Yeah.
like, someone had punched me in the mouth, and I was like, "What have you done to me right now?" And I might have had too much. It was a
Yeah.
dare, I think. So,
Even when I like spice, even when I like the more spice,
yeah,
I
yeah,
couldn't. The same thing. I felt like I like a chemical. I got
yeah,
sprayed with
yeah.
chemicals or
You got
something, man. Like
maced, and you're like,
it was,
"What? This is not fun to
yeah,
eat this food with this," you know?
yeah. It's
Yeah.
weird, man.
All right. Um, what is something that you have overcome that makes you proud?
Oh man. Well, I'll I'll say a change in lifestyle. You know what I mean? Uh, I'm a late bloomer, bro. I didn't even start to grow up till I was 35. I'm
Yep,
47 now. But when I used to live a little further up North California in
yep.
Lodi, Thornton area, and I moved to Hanford, where I stay now. When I'm 28. I believe had I stayed back there, I would have been a statistic. The typical strung out drug addict in jail
Mhm.
or dead. You know what I'm saying? I think that's how I would have ended up had I
Yeah.
stayed there in that doing what I was doing. So I'm most proud of changing my
So,
life around.
oh man, we could go so deep on just this question. So when I grew up pretty poor, and so like in Australia's version of like government welfare. But then all the people
Okay.
around me were in
Okay.
that sort of world as well until I was like 14. I was lucky enough to have a few people on the outside of my life that I could to look up to. So I had like a couple of I had aunties that had went to university. I had a nana and pop that would come and like just do stuff with us that we may not have access to. It wasn't like big things. It was like, oh, we're going to take you to over here and do like go out to Sizzler or something like that. But like just their demeanor and stuff like that. How was it the move that made you get out of that? Like what made that change? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, it's it's not like a cool answer. Basically, what it was, man, is at that time I had made a commitment. I was gonna go to culinary school in San
Yep.
Francisco and go run. I said, if I've been cooking this long, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go with the big boys. You know what I mean? And so I moved my wife and children to this town because I
Yep.
had family here already. And but I didn't like it because I didn't have any of my
Yep.
old associates, any of my
Yep.
friends like that. So I hated it. So it was kind of like, and I was too broke
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
move
Yeah. Yep.
back. You know, so I was kind of it is it wasn't like I did something noble. I moved away to change my life. It just if I could have afforded it, I would have went back and probably
Wow.
stayed in
But
it.
even the
You know what I
thought
mean?
of like, hey, I'm going to move my family to go do this culinary school, like there's a part of you that's like trying to change something, right?
Well, yeah, man, because where we lived, it wasn't the most
Yeah.
upscale
Yeah.
neighborhood, you could say. You know what I mean? I don't want to leave them
Yep.
there
Yeah.
while I
Yep.
was gone. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong, I wasn't a mindless
Yeah.
idiot running the streets, but I wasn't making the best decisions. I was selfish. All I cared about myself and instant
Oh.
gratification more than I cared about the big picture, my family or
Yeah.
anything like
I
that.
didn't
You know what I
start my
mean?
family till later, but I was definitely like, I didn't party. I partied, but I did very minimal drugs. But I did like drinking, but it was all about to me about like getting out and just continually having fun. So it was either work, skateboard, have fun. There was no forethought of like, if you put this extra work in now, you will have a
Yeah, yeah,
better 2, 3 years from now. I was like, oh, I worked 40 hours a week in a skate shop. That means I skate after that, and then I party after that, and then rinse and repeat. And who's got the best story to tell after that? You know what I mean? Where my friends were like, "Oh,
correct,
I'm going to
correct.
go become a draftsman. I'm going to come be a plumber," and I'm like, 25, and I'm like, "Why am I still stuck?" You know what I mean? But I'd met my wife by
Yeah,
that
yeah.
point and stuff, and sort of once I met her, my life sort of went bang. Let's click it into gear, and I got to move forward. So she is my life wasn't like I was just like never doing any like I was not giving back to society, you know what I mean? I was just like working, maintaining, party, like it was just over and over, just sort of it was fun, don't get me wrong, but it just wasn't productive, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, well, yeah, man. You know, everybody's different, but I think if we're honest with ourselves, there comes a time when the party just isn't
Yeah.
isn't the
Yeah.
same. You know
I
what I mean?
do like sharing some of my dumb stories with people because they're like, "What the heck did you do when you were a kid?" And I was like, "I know, it was a bit crazy."
Yeah, hey, that's one thing though, Matty. Got some definitely
Yeah,
some
yeah,
stories, man.
exactly. It's always good to have a couple of stories in the bank, right? um, what are 3 things that you were grateful for?
Oh man, yeah, man. Grateful for my family. You know, being able to do what I
Yep,
like to do. You know, and just pretty much all the little things that that can easily be taken for
yep.
granted. You know what I mean?
I feel you. I feel like the friends and family one, like that. That's nearly every person. That's their one to go for. I
Mhm.
like the little taking being grateful for the little things in life. Like my wife and I, every night, we say 3 gratefuls to each other that we did for the day. And it could be something like, "Oh, I'm
Oh,
grateful I
wow.
found my shoes that I was looking for." The other one could be like a worldwide one. "Oh, I'm grateful that I heard that bees have come back." And the next one could be like, "I'm grateful that my kids have done we had an easy bedtime rather than them being little shits." You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's like
Hey, yeah.
like we do that every day, but like it's always interesting to see how people take that question because a lot of people go, "Oh, here's like I'm trying to get the most deep, insightful thing to say," but then like finding that I really like that last one. It was really I dig it. Not that my opinion matters, like that. But that was awesome. I liked it. I'm gonna steal it.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. We're all it's just opinions, bro. How we feel about
Yeah,
certain
yeah.
things. That's all, you know.
All right. Now that I've soaked up more of your time, this is our last question, and you have to
Okay.
wear a shirt with a slogan on it for a year. What does it say?
Ooh, here's what the shameless self
Yeah,
promotion
do it.
comes in. It's gonna have to be some. It's gonna be have to do something with you know, the people's champ or something like that. You know, Lugo's engraving for life. It's got to be something
Yeah.
shameless self promotion, embarrassment
Yeah,
for the
no,
wife and
I
kids. You
dig
know.
it. That's the first time anyone said that. Yeah, I like it. You know, that's something I feel like I struggle with is this self promotion. Like people ask me what I do, and I'll be like, "Oh, I got this or I got that." Like I try to where I feel like I should be more proud and be like, "Wear that." You know what I mean? And I think that's inspiring. I like that. So, what would
Yeah,
Lugo's um, engraving? I don't know. What would it, how would it go exactly?
I don't know, you know, Lugo's engraving for president. Something.
Yeah,
It
I
could be
like
humorous.
that.
It could be
Yeah.
serious. With the promotional thing, I struggled with that for a long time too. A lot of it had to do with I didn't feel my skills were there. Like you know, like I don't want to
Yeah.
because I've seen that and
Mhm.
I've done it myself. I busted out
Mm.
too early. You know, what I mean, if I could rewind time, I would have waited a year or two at least before I try to
Yeah.
promote my work. You know, and but anyways, you know, yeah, man, I struggled with it at first. I'm like, you know, well, because of my spiritual beliefs, I can't. It's wrong. Is wrong to be
Mm.
proudful. You know what I mean? So I struggle with that too. But on the flip side, I see, you know what, man, this is social media. Everybody knows we for the most part we only put our best
Yeah.
face forward. You know, we don't. So everybody knows it's not real. It's the
Yeah.
highlight reel
Yeah.
of our lives, right? As I've heard others say. So I go, you know, I'm gonna have. I feel comfortable having a little bit
I
of fun
love
with
that.
it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you know, I grew up watching a lot of
Yep.
wrestling, the old WWF wrestlers.
Uh,
You know, where
yeah.
they're doing their
Yeah.
promotions
I
and all
love that
that stuff.
stuff.
I
Yeah.
thought that was great. So I was like, you know what, man, I'm gonna have a little fun because you know sometimes you know it's I know for myself it's like okay, do I be serious? Do I be professional? But
Yeah,
I like to
yeah,
joke
yeah.
around too. You know what I mean? I like to have fun too. You know, so am I being real? Am I being fake? It's like you know what, just be yourself like you would. I just have fun like I would with my kids. I joke
Yeah.
around with them, dad
I got
jokes. You know what I
a
mean? Stuff
bunch
like
of
that.
dad
So
jokes. They're all shit, but I got a bunch of
hey,
them.
hey, man, if you don't mind sharing some, bro, mine are
You
getting
probably
old. You
got
know,
well, I need them
I
from
can
you.
use some new
Mine are
material.
all like on the spot. Like it's basically just about 700 fart jokes all day. That's all it is.
Yeah, there we go, man. That, yes, hey, I, I think is this gonna be the podcast gonna be recorded? Will I be able to show my
Yeah,
kids? I
yeah,
want to
yeah.
show them this
Oh,
part,
but
the
yeah,
fart joke
what I'll
part.
do is once I it's recorded, so I'll put it on my stuff and then I'll send you clips to it as well. And then like you can see it all or grab the clips or do whatever you want with it. Yeah,
Right
cool.
on, man. Cool,
All
cool.
right. So that's at the end of it. Thank you so much, Lugo, for being on here. Your work is incredible. It's so inspiring to me. I'm so grateful that you were just like, yep, let's jump on this, let's do it. And you made my fucking day. And
I, I
and I'll
appreciate
get an
it.
illustration off to you and hopefully it does you justice.
Right on, Matty. I appreciate it, man. And real quick, man. I'm not one for flattery, bro, but I can't sincerely say, man. I enjoy this podcast with this conversation. You know what I mean? I and one of the main reasons is because we didn't have to talk
Oh
only about
yeah.
engraving. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That was pretty awesome. And yeah, bro, I
Oh, thank you
appreciate
so
you.
much.
I have a whole Yeah, man. Thank you, man, for considering me and taking the time as well.
Your
And
work, I was just like, I've got to like reach out.
yeah,
I honestly didn't know if you'd respond because I was just like, his work's amazing. That people have got to be hounding him all the time. So I was like, here's a wish and a dream, and you answered my wish, and my dream came true.
get down, Matty. I do appreciate you, bro. Have the utmost
No,
respect.
thank you.
Thank you, man.
This will be up in
And
about a week, and so you'll
yeah,
be able to like see the illustration and that sort of come to life, and I'll send you assets and stuff like that.